Welcome back, fight fans. We have yet another episode of Shooting the Shit here on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network, as well as our YouTube show here. Before we get started today with another fantastic professional guest here, I do want to quickly plug our sponsor. Most of our listeners here are from Illinois, so if you are looking for home improvement projects, both indoor or outdoor, you should go to Facebook and look up Cornelius & Sons. They've done plenty of work on my house. He's here almost every other weekend. When you have a new house, you got a lot of projects. So again, if you are from Illinois, check out Cornelius & Sons on Facebook for all of your indoor and outdoor home construction needs. Now today, we start the first of probably 3 or 4 straight weeks of women's fighter guests. This really is turning into the women's fighter show. For a while, we're getting some men there, but the women are just better at answering me. So we welcome to the show Invicta veteran and, young professional MMA fighter, Autumn Norton. Autumn, how are you today?
Good. How you doing?
No complaints here other than work. It's good that we have you here. We were supposed to have you last week. You gotten busted up a little bit. What was the story with that?
Yeah. I was in sparring and I forgot my mouthpiece that day and I got kneed right in the mouth, like right here. My lip was pretty big for about a week there, so still a little messed up, but not as bad as it was.
We can't tell. Don't worry. Everyone's
Thank
looking
God.
at you and then looking at me, and they're like, oh, she's the one that's hurt. He's the one with the crooked nose. So
I could put a brown paper bag on my face if that works. That'll be fine.
Yeah, we could do. I'll get one of my wrestling masks, and we'll do this as the faceless show. So it looks like you're training out of Las Vegas. Is that correct, or Nevada?
Reno.
Reno. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. About by the cat house.
Yeah.
Sure, that's interesting. Yeah, I know. I'd seen a post on your social media that if Sislak if he shuts down the gyms again, this is going to be us. And obviously, just a meme about you guys fighting. So, what's your whole take on the COVID situation? How has your training been affected by it? And can we actually see you fight Governor Sislak on pay-per-view?
Hopefully, if he shuts our gym down again, then it's gonna happen. But at first it sucked. Like our whole gym shut down. I mean, everyone was affected, but our gym shut down, and for me, this is all I have, So I mean, I had nothing else to do with my time, and I didn't know what to do. It was shut down for a few months, and it was god awful. Not gonna lie, I hated it. So I'm really hoping we don't get shut down again, and yeah.
So you don't have any other hobbies that you could have stayed busy with?
I mean, people always ask me what I like to do outside of fighting and stuff like that, but I honestly don't know how to answer that question because my life really just kind of revolves around training and fighting.
So what you're saying is we wouldn't catch you knitting a sweater anytime soon?
Probably not, no.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So what's your whole take? And again, most of the questions I'm getting is just looking at your social media, which, a lot of it is fight stuff, but a lot of it's kind of funny. There was a video of how to treat a Karen in public. What do you think of the mask mandates? Actual law that forces you to wear mask, and then how do you treat Karens if you do spot one in public?
The mask, I don't know. Maybe it's just not a big deal. I think some people are just making it a bigger deal than it is. Like, just put on a freaking mask and deal with it. Like, what's the big issue? And like people who are just like rude to like store clerks and stuff about wearing a mask, it's like, it's not their fault, man. Just fucking put on the mask and don't be rude to people. It's not that hard.
For sure. Do you think it should be mandated by law, or do you think people should use their best judgment?
I guess just their best judgment. I mean, if you're afraid to get it, the whole coronavirus thing, then don't go out in public, I guess. But I don't know.
So we had an interesting conversation on, it wouldn't have been last week, or it would have been one of last week's shows with Randy Costa, and we talk about a big issue. And if you look at the numbers, it's true. And I know Pat Miletich had mentioned this, but sometimes Pat Miletich gets pretty crazy. But a large number of people affected in a negative fashion by COVID is caused by obesity, diabetes, heart issues because of weight issues. Do you think, do you think that it's just kind of shown a light on American obesity? Do you think that that's really the big issue here? Because the issue seems to really only be affecting the elderly and the people who are in terrible shape.
I mean, I guess people who have like underlying issues. I'm not a medical profession, so I mean, we probably shouldn't get too deep into it. So, but
You're not a doctor?
no, I'm not a doctor.
Surprising.
Yeah, right. Um, I don't know. I guess yeah, people with underlying conditions, they react to it worse. But I've talked to a few healthy people, a couple fighters, in fact, who have had it and they kind of got the worst end of it. But like I said, I'm not a medical professional, so.
For sure. So getting away from COVID, I always talk about how I never want to talk about it on the show, but unfortunately we always have to. It's just that's how it's been affecting fighters. Going from fighting a disease to watching a guy fight an old man. I'm assuming you saw the Mike Perry video of him in the bar getting into a little bit of a scrap. Do you have
Yeah.
any comments on that? And I don't want to say an old man was asking for it, but did he make the situation worse? What's your overview on that entire situation with Mike Perry?
I definitely saw the video. I mean, we all did. I don't know. I'm a really big Mike Perry fan, so we don't need to get like too into it. But I mean, he's wild from the get go. People are all shocked from his freaking from the whole situation. But it's like he's been like that from the beginning. So why is everyone acting all brand new about it?
Right. I was more shocked at people's reaction than the actual fight.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, have you guys never experienced Mike Perry anywhere? I mean,
that was lightweight, Mike Perry.
yeah, right. I actually thought it would have been worse. But the big thing was he hit the guy who was an older. He probably looked like he was in his 50s or 60s. What were your thoughts on that? Did that guy make the situation worse and cause himself to get hit, or should Mike have used better judgment and not put his hands on him?
Everyone's different. I mean, one person will react it to this way, one person will handle the situation another. But I mean, that guy did hit Mike Perry first, so I mean, where I come from, you hit me, like you're going down. So
yeah,
I'm with it.
Did he hit him though? I thought he threatened him and then he said, "If you're gonna do it," and then Mike hit him or something like that.
He rushed towards him. I saw him put his hands on him in the video, I believe, but
okay.
I could be wrong. It's not a very good video, but
yeah, it was pretty grainy.
It looked like he did.
Now, when it comes to bar fights, I don't know if you're a bar goer yourself, but how do you go into a bar situation as a pro fighter? Do you have to show more caution? Is it kind of like what you said, if problems start, it doesn't matter, I'm a fighter, that, I have to, take care of the situation?
I'm definitely not a confrontational person. Growing up, I was pretty rowdy, so I think as I got older, I kind of calmed it down, and found my grounding. But I'm like, I don't know. I don't go out looking for confrontation, or it takes a lot to get me going. So.
Well, that's good. Obviously you have a longer fuse than Mike Perry in that situation. Yeah. Now, from going to bar fights to online fights, we're all getting a little segue here. Trolls online. Twitter can be a shit place. I think the world would be a better place without Twitter, quite frankly. Do you get a lot of trolls online as if not only a fighter, but a female fighter? And if so, how do you handle that?
I've gotten a few maybe, but I haven't really experienced all that yet. So, I mean, I'm sure it's coming, but I don't know. We'll see. Wait till that day comes.
Yeah, maybe you just haven't ruffled the feathers enough.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an easy one to go past there. And then here's the last thing we can talk about before we talk about maybe your fighting and then moving on to this weekend's card, because there is a full a very rare event where the main card is 7 fights. I think there's probably a first. The big topic in the world, we don't talk about politics on this show because it's just not something I want to talk about when I'm talking about MMA or talking with fighters. But a big topic is law enforcement and how law enforcement handles themselves. There's a lot of hoopla around how they handle themselves in physical confrontations. Now, I think I probably know the answer, but I'd like to hear an expanded thought. Should police be required to go through mandatory training, whether it's full MMA or just Brazilian jiu-jitsu? Or, should there be a program available that police, either at a discount or on the tab of the city, can take these training courses so that they can be more effective in terms of when it comes to hand-to-hand altercations?
I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu will solve so much of that issue. And I was a correction officer for about 5 years.
Oh,
and
nice.
I said that from the beginning, like, everyone, even in my department, every law enforcement officer should be forced to train in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It'll just be such a help, and it's just because like a lot of the DTAC stuff, the defensive tactics that you go through, all the training, it's just not realistic in a real fight, and it's just crazy. People don't realize, and it would help. Jiu-jitsu would help a ton.
Yeah, I agree. I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is probably the way to go. I don't know if you have to do full-on MMA, but I definitely think wrestling and Jiu-Jitsu is especially important. I mean, and not only that, I think that, and again, this goes back to the obesity thing. I think, unfortunately, with the police union, there's not a fitness requirement because the union stands against it. I really think there should be a fitness standard in law enforcement. Not saying that the officers involved weren't in good shape or weren't in fighting shape, but I mean, I just in watching the Chicago confrontation. I'm from the Chicagoland area. A lot of the cops that were involved in that Grant Park brawl with the quote unquote protesters, a lot of them looked out of shape, and there was some beard, there were some bellies and some bitch tits. I really think that police officers should be held to a higher health standard. Do you also agree that?
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely.
Because and there's the other thing, you get in a foot chase, and if you, down in 6 donuts a day or whatever, you're not going to catch that person either. So, and that's when you get into situations.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. So, now we can talk about your fight career. Obviously, you're a young fighter. I believe you have had 2 or 3 pro fights.
Yeah, I've had 2.
2. There you go. So what's next for you? Obviously, you fought for Invicta. Are you still under contract with them, and are you possibly in some talks since they have finally gotten back to putting on cards? What's the situation there?
Yeah, I'm still with Invicta, and I'll be having some news here soon. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything yet, but
okay. If you can't,
I was already trying to date, so we're just waiting. So,
Very good.
I'll be ready.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually am close with some of the people with Invicta, so I think I know what card you're talking about, but I will not spill the beans either because I don't want to screw anybody over. Is it still going to be at 135?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. What do you think of Invicta's 135-pound division? Now, obviously, a lot of their talent gets poached by the UFC because as the higher the weight class you go in MMA, the less talent there is. We talked to Caitlin Young yesterday, that's for next week's show. She's a 145er, and it's even more thin up there. So just kind of comment on that situation and what do you think is going to happen going forward with Invicta, their division?
I think Invicta 135, I think there's a lot of new upcomers who are pretty good, pretty good athletes. But we'll see. I think as we get up there, the competition kind of gets watered down, but we'll see what happens with all these fights coming up.
Yeah, and I think the crazy thing is they had just developed a new star with that Phoenix Rising tour with Tanisha Tennant. She's a young fighter. I think she's only had 3 pro fights minus the exhibition fights. And she's already on the Contender Series. She's already been, announced, or I don't know if she's been announced, but I know that I've seen that she is on the Contender Series next year. So, that's how desperate they are for bantamweight talent is that they're going for people with less than, 3 or less fights, So, there's a lot. What's your trajectory or what's your game plan in the next year or two? What do you plan on doing? Is it Invicta all the way? If you take a 1 or 2 fights with Invicta, is the Contender Series next year an option? I mean, do you want to go straight to the UFC? What's the game plan?
I mean, I love fighting with Invicta. Like they treat us like so good. It's crazy how smooth they make everything for the fighters. Like as soon as you get there, like other fights and other promotions, you'll get to like the venue or whatever, and it'll just be a mess, a shit show. No one has any idea what's happening. Like no one knows what's like who's where. Like it's a mess. And as soon as you get to Invicta, they're like on it. Just everything's so smooth, so perfect, and it's nice. It's like a breath of fresh air. But I think everyone's goal is to obviously be in the UFC, but I'm good right now. I'm good. I'm chilling right now. So I got some more girls to beat up in Invicta before any of that happens. So
100%. Yeah, and I agree with you. I'll always give props to Invicta. I've been to 6 or so events, and they're always so organized. It's ridiculous how organized they are. And I've seen smaller promotions and how unorganized they are, so I can attest that with you. and I guess this will be the last question on that. Is your Invicta contract exclusive, or are you able to take outside fights if there's a certain amount of inactivity?
I think that's one of the cool things about Invicta is you can fight out of your contract, and you just have to like communicate that with them and get it approved. And I did almost have a fight outside of Invicta, I think about a year ago, but my opponent ended up getting injured, so then that was off. But
Gotcha.
yeah, it's definitely cool. So yeah, you just have to get the permission, like I said, and I have 2 more fights left on my contract, and so we'll see what happens.
Perfect. And then, as you said, one of them may be coming up very soon. So
that's right.
Really exciting. And I'm glad to see Invicta's back. They're actually, after the UFC, one of the first ones really getting back in the swing of things. They even beat Bellator to the punch in terms of having a card and then having another card. So, like I said, next weekend we should see that card, and I'm really looking forward to it. We can touch on that really quick. We'll just talk about the main event for the next Invicta. It is Janissa Morandin and Montse Ruiz. That's a 115 fight, but whatever. Do you have any opinion on that fight or a comment on that fight? I know it's the main event.
I think I fought in the same card as Janissa. Mm-hmm. That's her name, right? Janissa? Yeah. I think I fought in the same card as her one time. She's pretty good. I've watched her for a while, but we'll see. I think it'll be a good fight. I don't ever really see a lot of fights on Invicta that are like mismatched too much. Like it's always fucking just bangers, and that's the other good thing about them. So every fight, every card is it's always good. There's never a bad card.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be an exciting main event. And then you have Blanchfield fighting in the co-main event. It should be interesting. Speaking of fuck, what's your favorite swear word?
Oh my God, I've never been asked that.
I know, I figured I'd surprise you.
Fuck.
Fuck yeah.
I drop the F-bomb a lot, so I got a foul ass mouth, so.
The only reason I asked that, it's more of an inside thing, is that you asked me before we came on, am I allowed to swear? And I'm just like, yes. You should have heard our episode with Tanya Evinger. It was,
oh yeah?
There was a lot of fucks and shits, and it was good
nice.
Stuff. All right, let's get to this UFC card Saturday, and then we'll let you go. I'm sure you're a busy bee. It's actually 7 fights, which is crazy. If you don't know everybody, that's fine. I'll give my usual analysis. You can break down what you got. In the first fight, we have Khamzat Chimaev, who is taking his second fight in about 10 days. This fight was on, less than a week's notice, as far as I know, taking on newcomer Reese McKee. Now, this might be a tougher one for you to call unless you really pay attention to the regional scene and prospects. What do you think about this one?
In all honesty, I have no idea who either one of them are, but I wish them both the best.
So Chimaev fought wouldn't have been last Saturday because I didn't watch that card, the previous week, and he absolutely destroyed John Phillips. It was so one-sided, it was ridiculous. So Dana decided to book him out, book him back quickly because he asked him. I think he was a guy that actually went to UAE just in case somebody had dropped out, and then they signed him just to fight. And he did get that late notice fight, but it was at middleweight. This is at his natural weight class, welterweight. Seeing what he did to John Phillips, I'm going to have to take him here by submission, probably over McKee. And it could be in about a round or less. We'll see what happens. The next welterweight fighter, a little bit more well-known fighter, so maybe you'll get one on this one. Alex Cowboy Oliveira taking on Peter Sobata, who has been around for a long time. What is your thoughts on this one?
Oliveira, I think he's going to take it. I think that guy's a beast, so it'll be a good one, though.
Yeah, Oliveira has been around for a while as well. And I mean, they're both veterans of the sport, 100%. Yeah. I think Oliveira is a little bit more well-rounded. He is 1-3 in his last 4, but his 3 losses were to Dirty Mike Perry, Nicholas Dalby, and Gunnar Nelson. So, I mean, that's 3 pretty damn good opponents. Sabata generally has fought in the mid-card. He's coming off a loss to Leon Edwards, which is not a mid-card fight. But he actually went almost 4 rounds with him. So, nice. He's a tough kid. He's probably older than I am. So I'm also going to take Alex Oliveira here. I think he's better all around. I don't see a place where Sabata actually has an advantage. I think Oliveira is a better striker and a better grappler. Light heavyweight fights. We got Paul, the Bear Jew Craig, which is a great nickname, taking on Gatsi Antigulov, another one of them Russian wrestlers. What do you think about this one?
I don't know either one of them are either.
All right. You're turning into Tanya Evinger. I love it. So Antigulov, more of a wrestler. He's got decent striking as well. Craig, more of a grappler, has a really dangerous triangle choke, so he has no problem fighting off of his back. Antigulov is on a 2-fight losing streak. He was knocked out in both of them, which shows he's not great. He's not the greatest defensive striker. I don't think he has to worry about that as much here with Paul Craig. Paul Craig's not a great striker either. But he's been knocked out before as well by Khalil Roundtree and Alonzo Menefield. He fought Shogun to a draw in the last fight, but he really relies on the grappling to win. So I know you don't know much about this fight. I will give my pick. I do have Antigulov winning a decision here by out wrestling Craig, unless Craig hits him with a Hail Mary triangle, which is possible given his background. And if you don't believe me, watch his fights. I think he's got 2 or 3 Hail Mary triangle chokes. Don't quote me on that, but I remember at least 1 or 2 of them. Now into your world, the women's fight. This one got rescheduled back a week. The Cookie Monster, Carla Esparza, former Invicta champion, former UFC champion, taking on up-and-coming Brazilian Marina Rodriguez. I know the Brazilians don't pronounce the R's. What's your take on this one?
I've been a fan of Carla's for a while, and I kind of, when I first got into fighting, I watched her kind of growing up, so I got her. I like her.
Yeah, and that's the thing with women's fighting is women, and I've talked about this with people like Alicia Zapatella. Women with background in wrestling, especially high school and collegiate wrestling, really do well because there's just not a lot of female wrestlers. She's always solid. Her boxing's not bad. Her wrestling's really her bread and butter. She's tough as nails. And then you got to go like Rodriguez, who, she has wins over Jessica Aguilar, who's a legend in the sport. Tisha Torres, who is a tough out. And her other 2 fights in the UFCs are draws, again, including Cynthia Calvillo, who's arguably the top contender at the flyweight division right now with her win over Jess I. So, she's tough, really, really good Muay Thai, really hard to fight in the clinch, very long. So Carla's going to have to get on the inside on this fight because she's shorter. She's not as lengthy. Marina's really good, very accurate striking, very technical. I think this is a throw-up fight, actually. If Rodriguez can stay on the outside and poke Esparza, I think she can take it. Otherwise, if Esparza is able to, push her against the fence and make this fight dirty, I think Carla's going to pick up another win here.
Yeah, it'll be a good fight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one very much. All right, last 3 fights we have on the card. The former UFC champion, Fabricio Verdum, finally returns from his doping suspension. He's taking on somebody coming out of retirement in Alexander Gustafsson. This is taking place at heavyweight. Obviously, Gustafsson used to be a light heavyweight. What do you think about this one?
I'm a huge fan of Gustafsson, so I'm definitely pulling for him. I think he's a great fighter. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's really good. It's going to be interesting to see how the layoff treats. So do you think a long layoff is a problem?
No, not really. I went through a period of time. I didn't fight for 3 years, and I came back I never left. So as long as you stay working the whole time, and it's kind of a mental thing. So you should be all right.
What do you think about him moving up to heavyweight, though? Obviously he's a tall guy. He's not the most girthy. A guy like Verdum usually weighs in around 250. He was a 205er. We don't know how. He's 6'5", but he's not girthy like Verdum. Do you think that size advantage is gonna play a part in this?
How tall is Verdum? He's a shorter guy, right?
I can look it up. I think he's probably 6 foot. He's 6'4", so he's only an inch shorter than Gustafsson.
Oh damn, he is tall. Damn, dang. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see how Alex does it at a heavyweight. So. Yeah. I think it'll be all right. I think it'll be good. I think
Gustafsson probably has the reach advantage still, though, even with the 1 inch height advantage. I think he probably has more than a 1 inch reach advantage because he does have pretty long arms. Whereas I'm not saying Verdum's a T-Rex, but he's got thicker, not as lengthy arms. So you're going to take Gustafsson in this one.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad pick necessarily. I think if it stays on the feet, I think he outboxes Verdum. But the minute it goes to the ground, I think he's toast. Verdum is widely considered the best heavyweight MMA BJJ guy in the world, and I don't think that's going away even without the steroids or whatever he was taking. So, and we go to the light heavyweight in the co-main. 2, I'd say 1 legend and 1 pretty close to a legend taking here. Shogun Mauricio Hua taking on Antonio Rogério Nogueira. What do you think about this? This is a fight that should have taken place a long time ago.
Who are they? Who's
Shogun
who's it?
Rua and Nogueira.
Okay, Shogun for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he actually. Oh, they did fight once. I take that back. He fought
Yeah.
Rogerio back in 2015. He beat him by unanimous decision. I don't think I see a whole lot different happening in this fight. Nogueira has been getting his lunch handed to him lately. He got fucking brutally knocked out by Ryan Spann in his last fight. And let's be honest here, he's had 3 fights since 2016. 2 of those were pretty brutal knockouts, including the Ryan Bader one. I'm going to go with you on that. I have Shogun winning this. I think it's a little slower because they are older guys. It'll end up being a pretty decent striking battle, but I'm with you. I will take Shogun. And in the main event, which should be a really, really good one, I'm really looking forward to this one. I will be shocked if this is not fight of the night. Former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker takes on former welterweight title challenger, now at middleweight, Darren Till. What do you think of this one?
That one's really hard to pick. I was having a hard time choosing one of them, but I think it's gonna be a great fight. Part of me wants Darren to win because I just want to see what he says after the interview. See if he tries to stir anything up. So I don't know. We'll see what happens though.
Well, isn't Darren Till the one that's really been pissing? Not to keep bringing up Mike Perry, but isn't he the one that keeps trolling Mike Perry online?
Yeah, I've seen all that.
I know.
And his pictures, Darren Till's pictures that he'd be posting, like, of his face swaps. It's the weirdest thing, but it's so hilarious.
Yeah, it is funny. You're right. I did notice that as well. I think he's been messing with Bisping a lot lately, too.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny because he's not fighting anymore.
God.
Till moving up to middleweight from welterweight, do you think that 15-pound difference in not having the cut's going to play a big part here?
Oh, yeah. I think he'll feel a lot stronger there. I mean, anyone would really. So
especially from an energy standpoint. I mean, and again, he wasn't a small welterweight. I mean, this guy's he's 6 feet tall. I mean,
he's huge. He's huge. Yeah.
I mean, he was clearly cutting a good amount of weight. You take a look at Whittaker. Whittaker is also 6 feet tall, but he's probably, I would say, a little thicker, whereas Till's a little longer. Kind of like the same thing we were saying about Verdum and Gustafsson. I don't know if this is a striking battle. I mean, Till always has a puncher's chance, but Whittaker's kickboxing is just so good.
Yeah.
Whittaker's been out for a minute. Obviously, I know he had some things going on in his personal life, but I think that's going to be to his benefit because he was fighting pretty frequently, and he was the champion as well. So there was no easy fights for him. I am going to call this a Robert Whittaker, and I'm actually going to say the method of victory. I think Whittaker is going to win by a head kick knockout followed up with some ground and pound.
Very specific.
Very specific. I think he could do that to Darren Till. So,
all
right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Autumn. You've been great. This is my time to let you whore yourself out and tell us where you can find you, and you can thank your sponsors. You can thank whoever. It's now your time. Please go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you. Shout out to my sponsors. Got a few of them to thank. Diamond Casino, J&B Medical, recent sponsor I just got, Marvel Maniacs. Thanks to them. They're helping me out with this camp a lot. So, my camp, my whole team, my coaches, you guys are the best. Thank you guys.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to plug myself really quick, and then we can sign out here. Go to MMAintel.blog. We have everything on prospects. We have scouting reports every week on prospects, updated matches to make after every UFC card, UFC rankings, the archive of this show. We got a bunch of content there, so go there. Also feature my work on Combat Press. Thanks to Rob Tatum and Brian Henderson for continuing to put up with my ass, especially since I only write like once a month for them. Other than that, you can find me on Twitter at Big Riles MMA, and that's pretty much it. The rest of it, you can watch another show and watch my sign outs. So Autumn, thanks again for coming. Really looking forward to your fight announcements. It sounds like it's with Invicta. I'm not going to be presumptuous, but really looking forward to that. Should be fun. Because you are a good up-and-coming prospect, and you're someone to keep an eye on, especially in the bantamweight division that needs a star, and you can hopefully step up into that role. So
that's all me. I got that.
Perfect. So for Autumn Norton, I am Riley Kontek saying continue to watch the fights. Enjoy them this week. They're going to be great, and go fuck yourselves.